So, we had a very exciting first time out of Daly's place in a year and a half, basically, from AEW, a live crowd in Miami, a packed crowd, a pretty hot crowd. It was a fun show. I thought we had some decent matches. We had the crazy tag team title match at the end of the show. Plus, we had the Cody Rhodes QT Marshall strap match to talk about. We had some very good segments. We also had a crazy segment from someone who is not a pro wrestler, which we'll talk about. And we had the debut, or a surprise debut that was a funny oversight of their previous employer's contract. So we'll get to talking about that as well, because that was just a really serendipitous, I guess you could say, or just an overall surprise. Definitely did not expect what happened, so we'll be talking about that. And we also had the in-ring debut of Andrade El Idolo, so we will talk about that as well. So, what's up, everybody? Eric here from That's Wrestling. Thanks for tuning in. If you are listening to this as a podcast, we do the show live over on Twitch and on YouTube. You can follow the links in the show notes for those two channels. You can go follow them. And if you are watching this as a video on demand later, you can snag the podcast version on all your favorite podcast apps, or pretty much on all of them. If you can't find them, you can send an email, eric@thatswrestling.com, and I will work to get it on that particular platform. But also you can head over to thatswrestling.com, and you can snag the RSS feed there. Also, drop us a review on all your favorite podcast apps, or whatever podcast app you're listening to. It really helps out. And there's a link for our Discord in the show notes as well. And I believe there's one more thing that I usually mentioned, and I'm totally spacing it right now. Oh, follow us on Twitter @thatswrestling1 with the number 1. And this evening, I am going solo by myself, so you just get to hear me today. So let's talk about this show. They were in Miami for July 7th, AEW Dynamite 2021. And one thing I noticed right off the bat, they did not leave enough room around the ring. This was a problem early on in the promotion as well, with so many dives that take place in this realm. They did not leave enough space between the ring and the barricade. Luckily, nobody had... it really didn't come into play for any of the matches that were on Dynamite, but it was something I noticed, that it was just a lot narrower than normal. I'm wondering if it was the venue that they were in, because it wasn't like a hockey arena or basketball arena that they would normally be in. It was a bit of a smaller venue. It looked like a regular, like, staged venue. So it'd be more for like concerts and stuff like that. I don't know what else would take place in that venue. But I think it was roughly about 4,000 people for that building. And the crowd enthusiasm ebbed and flowed a bit throughout the night. And we'll talk about some of the quieter moments when we get to them, and the loud pops. So let's get into this. They started off the show with Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall. This was a South Beach strap match. They used some pretty old school rules here. The stipulation was you had to touch all four corners of the ring consecutively So there were times where they would get 1 or 2 or 3 and not make it to that 4th, and the ref would basically wave off the touches and they would have to start over again. QT didn't even get a entrance, though I heard through other sources that he did in fact have an entrance prior to the show going live. He also cut a promo on the town as well. So he basically got heel heat before the show even started. So Aaron Solo was at ringside with QT. As soon as it starts, though, he bails out of the ring before they can even attach the strap. Cody does a dive on him on the outside, and they do attach the strap there. They whip each other. Cody starts touching some corners. Aaron Solo gets involved. Then Dustin Rhodes comes out, runs him off. They fight through the crowd. Nick Camarado ran out and ran through the crowd as well. At one point, they did this suplex spot, but they were like tied together at this point because the whole strap was like wrapped around the both of them. QT dragged Cody from post to post, and Cody would tag the corner behind him each time. But they start fighting again, so that gets waved off. They go to the outside, but have the strap basically through the bottom rope, through the ring, and they have a ring post in between the two of them. So QT Marshall gets pulled into the ring post. He comes up bloody, and we get some more whipping, and then we have the lights go out. And I thought this was kind of clever that they were saying, there was some inclement weather in the Miami area, so it was actually a legit power outage. And this was actually foreshadowing for later, but I kind of like that they kind of played it off like, oh yeah, we're having this power issues out here after like the storms have come through and whatnot. So that was that. They fight up on top. Cody chokes QT with the strap. Cody goes for a Rana off the top, but QT gives him a power bomb off the top, and then QT wraps the strap around Cody, sets him up on the top rope, gives him a diamond cutter, basically a draping diamond cutter off the top rope, and QT touches 3 of the corners, but Cody pulls him away from the 4th. Cody fires up at this point. He hits a bunch of strikes and some whipping, and then does a top rope Cody cutter. Cody then touches 3 of the corners, and actually QT kind of tried to stop him from touching the second one, and Cody back kicked him, gave him a low blow. QT pulls Cody away from the 3rd touch and spits in his face. So then Cody gives QT a crossroads, gives him another crossroads, picks him up and gives him a 3rd crossroads, and then touches all 4 corners and gets the win. The crowd during this match was kind of quiet through kind of the middle part of the match. They were hot at the beginning, and they were really hot at the end, counting each corner that Cody touched. But that was one of the things I noticed, that they were not hot throughout this entire match. It kind of had a lull, and I personally kind of felt that lull as well. This match was okay. Strap matches, this is probably one of the better strap matches, and using the old school rules of touching all 4 corners, though I haven't seen one of those matches in 30 years, so I'm not sure if it was always you had to touch consecutive corners and the ref could wave it off, like if there was a break in the touches or something like that. So as far as what it was fine, but it definitely wasn't like the greatest match in general. So a little rough to start off this first live Dynamite with people at a new venue other than Daly's Place. I'm not sure if this is the match I would start it off with, but given the matches on the card, I am not sure what would have been a better opener. Maybe putting the second match up first would have done a little better. Also, they really needed to turn the mics up on the crowd. You could tell that they were being loud, but just like the level in the audio mix was just not enough. I would have liked to see them turn it up a little bit louder. Maybe that was just my TV or something, but I just felt like they were quieter than they should have been, given, you can kind of tell with the sound that you can hear that the crowd is actually really, really loud, but for some reason it wasn't as loud as it should have been in the mix of the audio, and that's just kind of my feeling on this. But overall, I mean, the match was what it was, and hopefully this is the end of the QT Marshall and Cody feud, and we can move on and move these two apart from each other, and we can get QT's faction kind of working the mid-card a little bit, and maybe really kind of building that faction a little bit more if they're going to continue. Which I'm sure they probably are, because, I mean, you have Anthony Ogogo, Aaron Solo, and Nick Comoroto in that faction with QT, so I think it would make sense for them to kind of build that faction a bit, and getting away from Cody is probably gonna help them do that, but you never know. They might pick it up, but I believe we know where Cody's next feud is by the end of this show. So next up, we had Shawn Spears. He was cutting a promo in the back, says that last week was the greatest second chair shot that he's done in AEW. He says that Sammy's ego is going to be his downfall, and then Spears gets hit with a flying chair that comes in from the side of the camera, and it ends up being from Sammy. And Sammy says that, "I got you, bitch. This is far from over." So we are going to continue down Sammy and Shawn Spears here. After Sammy lost to MJF, it'll only kind of make sense that Sammy would beat Shawn Spears when they finally get to their match, which I am not sure when that's actually taking place. Hold on, let me check my notes here. It is not happening next week, as far as I know, so we'll see what this continues. Obviously, Pinnacle and Inner Circle, this feud is, even though we've already had two major matches of Stadium Stampede and Blood and Guts, is far from over, even though you would think one of those two matches would normally be the ending of a feud like this. So, yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Tony next introduces Kenny Omega down to the ring. It does not take long for Don Callis to basically steal Tony's mic and kick him out of the ring. Don says it seems like a great time to give everybody a history lesson because Kenny Omega and he have made history over the past few months. The crowd starts chanting to Don, "You got fired," which is a storyline out of Impact. Don then says, "Real men don't quit, they get fired," which I thought was a pretty funny comeback. Omega says he says that Omega's defeated Moxley, Phoenix, Jungle Boy. Omega has so many belts that they need an entourage just to transport them. And Kenny then said, Don that they have a problem, or Don says that they've had a problem. They've beaten, Kenny's beaten everybody. There's no one left. The crowd starts chanting Hangman. Then we want Hangman. Don says that we got a problem because there's no challenger for Fight for the Fallen. Dark Order comes out, and Evil Uno, he says that, I've been listening to you and your weird uncle talk. And Uno says, why are you afraid of what the crowd wants? Why are you afraid of the number one contender on the rankings? Why are you afraid of my friend? The crowd starts chanting cowboy shit. And then Kenny does the oldest joke in the book. He asks, what is the capital of Thailand? Kicks Uno in the balls, yells out Bangkok, and then the Dark Order run in and attack. Good Brothers and Nakazawa come out as well and attack the Dark Order. And just as they're about to kill Evil Uno, Hangman comes out. He takes out the last of them. And he is out on the apron, and it looked like he is like setting up for like a buckshot lariat, very similar to times that happened while Kenny and Hangman were tag team champions. But he does not go through with it. He steps in the ring, and he and Kenny have a bit of a stare down and yell at each other. So looks like we're all but confirmed at this point that we're going to see Omega versus Hangman. I would assume this is going to be at All Out. I don't think you would do this match as a match on free TV, whether at Fight for the Fallen or any of the either of the two Fyter Fest days. So I guess we're going here, but who is Kenny going to face within the next couple weeks? I'm assuming he's going to have at least one match. It was mentioned, they have no challenger for Fight for the Fallen, so it would seem that there is at least a match scheduled for Omega for Fight for the Fallen. So we'll see who steps up to take that spot. I really don't have a good idea who would even be ready to go after that. Let me bring up the rankings real quick here and see if anything kind of stands out, because obviously Hangman is sitting at number 1. We have Orange. This is a match that actually I thought they were going to continue to, and then they kind of deviated. So are we going to get Orange Cassidy, who is sitting at number 1? Are we going to finally get that singles match of Orange Cassidy and Kenny Omega? They said it wasn't over after the triple threat. But they pulled Orange Cassidy towards the Blade storyline that he's in now. So I am not sure. I was kind of hoping that we would have Orange Cassidy versus Kenny Omega this summer in a one-on-one match. But it seems like they're kind of steering away from that, which is a bit of a bummer because I really want to see that match, because that sounds like a really fun match to see. So we will continue to monitor that situation, but we also have number 3 is Jungle Boy, who he's already faced. Darby Allin is number 4, but he's tied up with Ethan Page. And then Matt Sydal is sitting at 5, but he did just lose to Andrade, so it would make really not much sense for Matt Sydal to get that title shot. So I guess we're sitting here in a bit of an awkward position of who is going to face Kenny Omega at Fight for the Fallen if he does indeed have a title match at that show. All right, so moving on, we had JR. He did a sit-down interview moderating basically between Darby Allin and Ethan Page. I thought this was a really good segment here. Really good promo work from both guys. And it really kind of played to their history. He's talking about how JR, that is talking about how he's disturbed that each are saying that they want to end the other's careers. And JR asks, what happened in your past with this animosity? Darby says that Ethan Page is upset because that Darby Allin got further in 1 year than Ethan Page did in 12. And then Ethan Page is talking about how he plucked Darby from obscurity and says that he brought Darby into the business. and he never got thanked for all that. And JR says he doesn't have a good feeling about the situation for the coffin match that's happening next week. So they continue to light this one up and move it along, and we're going to have the coffin match next week. And that is a match that I'm looking forward to, though I hope Darby Allin doesn't do something super stupid, but it's Darby Allin, so we can only hold our breath and hope that he comes out on the other side all right. And yeah. All right, moving on, we had the trios match of Wardlow, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler, so a Pinnacle faction versus Santana, Ortiz, and Jake Hager, so an Inner Circle faction here. And Tully came out with the Pinnacle side, Conan came out with the Inner Circle side, and they were both ringside for this match. Santana and Dax end up starting it off, and they just go straight to brawling. Ortiz and Santana hit a little double teaming after a tag. We get a really nice Northern Lights suplex from Ortiz. But Dax makes the tag, and the Pinnacle start to beat on Ortiz for a little bit. Jake actually got in. He got a hot tag, and he ran wild, just taking everybody out. Both teams really go back and forth throughout the majority of this match. Santana hit an awesome rolling cutter. We get some double teaming on Ortiz with a dragon suplex, and then Dax goes in for a clutch pin for a 2. And then Jake Hager gets another hot tag, and he goes nuts. He takes out everyone, and Wardlow is the last man standing on the other side. He is not the legal man. He is out on the outside, and Jake Hager is just wanting Wardlow to come in. The crowd wants to see this happen. So it does. They have a bit of a hoss fight here with exchanging of strikes. Hager puts on an ankle lock, but Tully distracts the ref. And behind the ref's back, FTR come in, hit the big rig on Jake Hager, and Wardlow gets the pin. So this match, I think it was a good back and forth match. I think this would have been a better opener because this feud has a lot more heat than Cody versus QT Marshall. I mean, there's not it depends who you are. Myself and Trey, I mean, we've mentioned a zillion times that QT Marshall is great, and we're down with it. But the match, I just didn't deliver, I don't think. And as far as the crowd goes, they were much more into this match than they were the strap match. So I think starting off the show with this match probably would have been better. Post-match, Conan runs in. He hits Wardlow from behind with the Mad Ball, and Wardlow no-sells it. And then Tully comes in from behind Conan and chop blocks the knee and takes him down. And that was that. So, yeah, move this match up to the front, and I think it would have been a little bit better. The crowd was a bit hotter for this match. But continuing, now we have Conan. Again, he is getting physically involved. Tully got physically involved at the end here between the two of them. I really don't want to see any more in-ring work from Conan or Tully. I'm hoping it is not going in that direction, that we end up having a match that has both of them as competitors. Just something I hope we kind of avoid. Big announcement next that Moxley will be defending his IWGP US Heavyweight Championship against Machine Gun Carl Anderson. So we have the US title being defended once again here on AEW television. which is just awesome. We have Anderson talking. He's saying that, they have a problem in AEW, and that is Moxley. He talks about how Omega was actually the first IWGP US champion. He says that the Good Brothers are returning to Japan, and he wants to take the US title with him, and that Moxley has the US title, and that just pisses him off. So yeah, huge announcement here. Once again, IWGP US Heavyweight Championship being defended on AEW Dynamite, and that's huge. So that relationship continues to be at least good. We'll see how it continues going throughout the rest of the year. I'm kind of hoping we see some AEW talent over in the G1, though I think they just released the lineups, but I have not looked at it yet. I'm sure those are subject to change, so I just have not seen them yet. The G1 is happening in the fall again this year because of the Olympics. That, even though Japan is declaring another state of emergency because of COVID, they're still going forward with the Olympics in Japan, even though like 80+% of the population does not want the Olympics to happen in Japan. So there's that. And I believe they also announced today, though, that the Tokyo Dome show for New Japan on the 25th is going forward as planned. We're still 15 days away, so things could change, but that is the current rumblings according to New Japan. So next up, we had Jericho and MJF. They're going to have a sit-down chat basically in the ring. There was a table brought out, so they're sitting across from a table. But when Jericho came out, somebody jumped the railing, tried to hit the ring, but he got taken out by security. I think Jericho might have gotten a jab in of his own as well. MJF says it's sad that Jericho is begging for another match with MJF. He says that he is the king of AEW now, and everybody wants the MJF rub. Jericho says that he should have let the fat bastard come in and beat his ass. He says Jericho, he'll do whatever. He said he'll stand in front of a Mack truck. He'll swim in a pond of piranhas. I'll even have sex with your mother. Again. And that got such a massive pop. Oh no, he didn't. Oh my God, can't believe he said that type of deal. And MJF says karma sucks. He's taking Jericho's blueprint, but is making it better. Says that he has 4 opponents with stipulations that he has to get through, and then a 5th challenge that he has to, or stipulation he has to adhere to. Jericho says if he can't beat MJF, he might not even belong in AEW anymore. But he says he's the god of war and he's going to beat him. And Jericho signs the contract that was laid out. And then MJF says that where he comes from, deals aren't completed until there's a handshake. And he tells Jericho to shake his hand. He does, but Jericho doesn't let go when MJF starts walking away. And he lays MJF out with the Judas effect. I thought this was a great segment. I mean, these guys are 2 of the best promos in the entire wrestling business today. So, it was going to be, both of them thought on their feet pretty quick, dealing with the situation of a fan jumping the railing. So they even worked that in like it was planned, even though it was not. So good on them. And I am curious how this is going to go. MJF says he has 4 opponents with stipulation matches that Jericho is going to have to face and defeat all of them. And there was, I guess it comes down to who are these four opponents going to be. Now, conventional wisdom would say, oh, well, it's just going to be Pinnacle guys. But then, of course, it has been floated out there. What if MJF has Jericho have to face his own guys in the inner circle? And, of course, then you come up with the problem of the finger poke of doom, where somebody just lays down for Jericho. But it could be some of these stipulations that MJF might put on the match would convince Jericho's crew to actually try to win the match. So whether it could be, I don't know, a hair match, that if whoever on the inner circle loses, they have to shave their head, or, you know, something like that. I haven't really thought about other stipulations that would work that wouldn't end up with somebody just taking the loss. So I guess we will see what MJF comes up with, because they haven't said anything or haven't given the details yet. So we have that, and I'm sure those are going to be some interesting requirements that MJF is going to make Jericho go through before he gets to him. I'm assuming Jericho is going to live up to all of the challenges that MJF puts in front of him, and they face at All Out. That is probably where this is going. Next up, we had Tony talking to Britt Baker earlier in the day. Britt says that she was forced to take part in a match that she didn't want to do and nobody wanted to see. I don't think she said that. She might have, I don't know. She said Reba was forced to get in the ring. She got hurt, so Rebel did actually dislocate her kneecap during that match, but it was reported that it got popped back into place and she was out drinking with everybody later that night. So she is probably okay, but I guess she can continue hamming up the crutches. Britt says that Tony Khan should be thanking her. She brings in millions and has brought him and will continue to bring in millions. Tells Vicky that, yeah, you might have brought Andrade, so enjoy your blood money. Maybe next time we can fight in Saudi Arabia, which was a, oh snap, I can't believe she said that type of line. So she is definitely not going to make friends with anybody in WWE. Then she trashes Nyla, talks about Dallas is the big D, but at the end of next week, it's going to stand for DMD. The way she delivered this, I go back, but it sounded like a bit of a dig at Nyla for being trans. So it was there if you watch her mannerisms when she delivered that section of this promo. Maybe it was just me who picked up on it, but I think there were other people in the chat on the Discord that were like, that kind of sounded like a bit of a trans joke. So I don't know. We'll see where that continues, and let me know in the comments if how you felt about that delivered line at the end there, if it was a shot at Nyla or what. Next up, we had Andrade El Idolo making his in-ring debut against Matt Sydal. Andrade came out with Vicky and an unnamed assistant of his. He also came out with a mask on, but he did remove it before the match started. So he came out with the mask. Take it off, hand it all, like his jacket and everything to his assistant. We started off with a little bit of chain wrestling. We see a vertical brain buster from Andrade. He goes up top for a moonsault, but Sydal rolls away. Andrade lands on his feet and then immediately hits a standing moonsault right out of it. He gets a 2 count from there. Sydal hit a few kicks. They fight on the outside. Andrade drops Sydal knee first into the edge of the apron. Andrade sets Sydal in a sitting position on the apron, and he hits a wrecking ball drop kick. Andrade then does 3 amigos, which gets a loud Eddie chant from the crowd. Flying leg lariat from Sydal, bunch more kicks from him. Andrade fires back with some forearms. Sydal attempts a crucifix pin, gets a 2 count. Andrade runs Sydal over with a lariat. He goes up top, but Sydal follows. But he gets hung up in the tree of woe, and Andrade is standing on the top. It looked like he was going to do a double foot stomp to the hanging upside down Sydal. Sydal just twists out of the way of the double foot stomp. He hits a Meteora off the top on Andrade. Andrade then just hip tosses Sydal into the corner. He basically lands upside down, and then he hits a running double knees to the back of the head, hits a hammerlock DDT that they're calling El Idolo, and he gets the victory. So it looks like the hammerlock DDT is going to be Andrade's finisher here. I thought this was okay. Sydal actually ended up looking better than Andrade out of this, I think. Sydal got a lot in this match, and I think it might have been a little bit better if you just had Andrade come out and just clobber some jobber basically in 30 seconds instead of doing a 10-minute match with Matt Sydal going through a commercial for Andrade's first match. I'm curious what their plans are. You know, obviously he was not in the plans a few months ago because he had not been released yet. So where do they shimmy him in? Do they kind of go on the same type of journey that they did with Miedo? Not obviously to that level, but are they going to basically stick him in a holding pattern for a little bit until they can do something with him, kind of slot him into their long-term plans? That will remain to be seen, but very curious what their plans are with Andrade. I mean, right now, the top of the card is pretty stacked, so yeah, I don't know where he slots in. Obviously, he's a great talent and whatnot, and picking him up is the smart thing to do. But I do not know where you slot him, just given the current depth of the AEW roster. Post-match, Andrade actually takes off his belt that was holding up his pants. He uses it and wraps it around Matt Sydal's arms behind his back and just yanks on them for a little bit before he then parts from the ring. So just put a little bit of an exclamation point on the end there. We have a Matt Hardy and Christian video. It just kind of goes back and forth a little bit. They exchange words back and forth. Christian says that Hardy is mad at him, that he's always come out on top. Hardy says that Christian follows him wherever he goes, and Christian says that it's get on his level or get out of his way, and we're going to end up having that match next week. So it was fine. Do we really need to see Matt Hardy versus Christian in 2021? Probably not. But that is what's going to be happening next week. So we will see. Next up, we have the segment that everybody is talking about. Tony is in the ring with Arn Anderson, and he says to Arn, you know, with Cody's win today and Brock's win in his first match, life must be good, pretty good for Arn Anderson. Arn says that he's glad to be in Miami. Anyways, let's get to it. And then the lights go out again, and they're kind of playing it off like, well, we did kind of have this problem earlier. But when they come back on, Tommy End, the former Aleister Black, is standing in the ring. He hits Arn with the Black Mask. the spin kick that he does, and then Cody Rhodes comes out. He ends up eating one too. And on commentary, this is kind of where it got lost in translation, that Excalibur said that he is not Tommy End anymore. He is calling himself Malachi Black. And it really made no sense at the time. But apparently, earlier in the day on social media, there was a video that Tommy End had put up that then kind of alluded to him calling himself Malachi Black. I had not seen the video. I have since seen the video. You should definitely go check it out because it was pretty awesome. So it would have been good if Excalibur said, earlier today I saw on social media that Tommy End was calling himself Malachi Black. And that's how they got around to this name. Because I'm like, really, this is what they're going to do. Everybody in the crowd is chanting Tommy. So everybody knew who it was and knew his name prior to WWE. And now they're going to call him Malachi Black. But there is a backstory to that. And you should definitely go check out the video. It's like 4 minutes long. And he's kind of like in an asylum. He's in a prison or jailed. He has handcuffs on. He's handcuffed to a table and whatnot. And it's like he's going crazy. And that is the name that he is answering to. Even though he is, and they were calling him Tommy or just Tom when they were talking to him. But at the end, he's like, my name is Malachi. So that is kind of where this is built out of. It would have been nice if we would have seen some of this, or Excalibur was better with his explanation on the name change. Or this might not even be like an ongoing thing with his name. This may be a temporary name until something happens and he goes back to being Tommy End. I don't think this is his permanent name. I think he'll go back to Tommy End at some point. That's just kind of my gut feeling about it, but we will see what they do with the character and whatnot. And I'm looking forward to having Tommy End, aka Malachi Black, formerly Aleister Black, in AEW. And the biggest thing here is that everybody was expecting that he would show up at All Out, because all of those people who were let go, their 90 days run out on like September 2nd. He, for whatever reason, they forgot to update his contract when he came up from NXT, and he still had a 30-day escape clause that he could then basically elect to no longer be paid during that 90 days at the 30-day mark. So he could end his non-compete at 30 days and stop getting paid for that, for what is normally a 90-day no-compete. So that is why he got to show up as early as he did, and why it was so out of nowhere and surprised a lot of people, because it was, you know, you'd think 90 days, he's not going to be available until September, and here he is at the beginning of July, 60 days earlier than everybody was thinking. So big up there, big get. And the other thing was his wife, Selena Vega, Thea Trinidad, has gone back to WWE. She just came back on TV last Friday. Of course, from what I hear, I haven't watched WWE in a very, very long time, but from what I hear, they jobbed her out in like a minute and a half on her re-debut. So yeah, good job there. But so a lot of people thought they might rehire Tommy End, but they did not. We have an earlier in the night segment. I kind of liked how they did this. Ricky Starks was in the ring. He was with his own security. They must have taped this what would normally be during dark. So they taped this earlier in the day with the crowd there. So, you know, they did like an hour of dark taping before Dynamite started, and then they still had a couple matches after Dynamite went off the air as well. But it was Ricky Starks in the ring with his own security. Taz comes out and says, "What the hell are you doing? You're a joke. This doesn't need. You don't need to have security." And Ricky says that Brian Cage, he doesn't know what it means to be a teammate. And he says that when he becomes the FTW champion, he's going to party like he's the FTW champion, or like an FTW champion should. And he says, "Where I come from, the W stands for wife. And hey, Brian, I'm talking about your wife." Another, oh, no, he didn't say that, did he? Type of moment. Brian Cage runs out. He beats up Ricky's security, but doesn't get his hands on Ricky Starks. And that was the end of the segment there. Next up, we have the Blade and the Bunny versus Orange Cassidy and Kris Statlander in an this was a mixed tag, so the men fight the men, women fight the women. Though there was a little bit of straying from that rule. Orange Cassidy wants Aubrey to check Blade for any weapons, and she finds a pair of brass knuckles in his knee pad. And Bunny is mad about this. She's in the ring. Orange Cassidy gives her the weak low kicks, and when he's gearing up for the final one, she walks off. Blade gets in the ring, bell rings, and the match officially starts. Orange Cassidy ducks a clothesline, hits his drop kick with his hands in his pockets. Blade blocks an around the world DDT, but Orange Cassidy comes back a moment later, hits a stun dog millionaire. Bunny tags herself in, so Statlander gets in. Bunny hits a few kicks, hits a running rising knee. Statlander hits a long delayed suplex. Blade grabs Statlander's legs when she's hitting the rope, and the Bunny hits a few strikes, hits the sliding lariat in the corner. A little back and forth between the two of them. Bunny hits a swinging neckbreaker for a 2, running lariat for a 2. The women worked a lot of this match, and it did not go over well with the crowd. They really just wanted to see Orange Cassidy for the most part, so a bit of a rough position to put Bunny and Statlander in, but that's what happened. We get a head kick from Statlander. She hits a Falcon Arrow for a 2 count. She goes up top, but Blade runs around to the other side of the ring, takes out Orange Cassidy, and Statlander's watching this happen. So Bunny runs up, suplexes Statlander off the turnbuckle. Bunny tags in, and Statlander ducks a swing from Blade, or sorry, actually, she tags out. Bunny tags out. Statlander ducks a swing from Blade. Orange Cassidy hits a crossbody off the top rope. Blade is laid out. Orange Cassidy goes up top again, but Bunny pushes him off. Statlander runs over, pushes Bunny off the apron, goes up top, hits a 450 splash on Blade. Orange Cassidy makes the cover, but only gets a 2 count, and then Blade gets another pair of brass knucks from Bunny, I believe, behind the ref's back, punches out Orange Cassidy behind the ref's back, and while he's getting rid of the evidence, Kris Statlander tags herself in. She pushes Bunny into Blade, gives her a Big Bang Theory, and gets the win. So yeah, this match was fine, but everybody just really wanted to see Orange Cassidy. The crowd was pretty quiet for a good hunk of this. And, yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything bad. It just didn't land with the crowd. And I think that's really just because they want to see Orange Cassidy for the most part when he's in the match, and that's what kind of got the big pops there. Next up, we had Tony is down front with the people from American Top Team. Amanda Nunes was there, and Dan Lambert, who runs American Top Team. He basically runs down AEW for like 3 straight minutes, and this was probably one of the greatest promos of all time from a non-wrestler. He was amazing. He's just talking about if I wanted to see good wrestling, I'd get tapes from the 70s and 80s. Yeah, it was just great. And he runs him down for like 3 straight minutes. Lance Archer comes out, punches him once, sets him up on the top rope, and then picks him up, hits the blackout on him, and then leaves. It was great. You should definitely seek out the promo that Dan Lambert did because it was amazing. He didn't stutter. He didn't trip over any words. Nothing like that. He just went straight for like 3 minutes and just ripped it. It was great. Yeah. Better than any promo that I've seen in WWE for like the past 10 years. No, I don't know. Probably. We'll see. They say next week is Christian Cage versus Matt Hardy. We have Penelope Ford versus the returning Yuka Sakazaki. So I'm looking forward. I'm glad to have Yuka back. Hope she's here on a more permanent basis. And we also have Carl Anderson versus Jon Moxley for the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship. Only 3 things announced for next week's show at the end of this show, so I'm sure there's going to be a bit more. Oh, we also have the coffin match that's taking place next week. They didn't, I'm not sure if they had that in the, but anyways, the coffin match between Darby Allin and Ethan Page, so I guess we will see that as well. And lastly, we have the main event of the evening, and this was an AEW Tag Team Championship match. It was a street fight match, so this is the Young Bucks defending their titles against Penta El Zero Miedo versus and Eddie Kingston. So they got this match because last week they beat the Bucks in a 20-minute time limit television match, so that is why they get the title match here. The Young Bucks come out. I am super bummed that they shaved their mustaches. They put up a pin on their Twitter that they had to do so because their other halves, so their wives, would not let them keep it. But they did come out wearing jorts for this street fight. Kingston attacks with a trash can right away. On the outside, Nakazawa holds Kingston and Penta, but they both duck out of the way, and Nakazawa ends up eating super kicks from the Bucks. Brandon ends up isolated alone in the ring, but before Eddie Kingston can get to him, the Bucks attack. Both Bucks get drop toe hold onto an open chair in the middle, and then we get a drop kick, roundhouse kick from Penta and Kingston when they're laid out over the chair. Then Penta goes up top. Kingston holds Nick's legs open, sticks the chair there, and Penta drop kicks the chair into Nick's gooch. And then we have Eddie. He throws a table into the ring. He basically tears the legs and support out of it, and it's just basically the tabletop is laying on the mat. Penta sets one up on the outside on the floor. Kingston gets powerbombed onto the table that is just sitting on the mat. Penta hits Matt with a destroyer through the table off the apron. Then Nick kicks a trash can into Penta's face. Nick sets up the corner, sets up the tabletop that was in the ring in the corner. Brandon and Nick set another one up on the floor. Nick wants to suplex Kingston into the table on the floor, but Kingston blocks it, catches Nick doing a springboard, hits an exploder. Kingston goes for a spear, but Nick moves out of the way. Kingston goes through the propped up table. Nick hits a senton on a trash can on Kingston for a 2 count. Penta hits sling blades on both of the Bucks. Lung blower on Matt. Matt hits the Northern Lights. Matt ducks a back fist from Kingston. Cannonball to Kingston in the corner. Penta sends Matt into the corner, upside down, super kicks him in the face when he's upside down, half and half from Kingston to Matt, and then Kingston puts on a rear naked choke. Nick, who is up top on the top turnbuckle, ends up giving the ref a 450 splash when Matt starts tapping out. So Nick gets down, rakes the eyes to get Eddie to release the hold on Matt. Good Brothers come down to the ring. They fight with Eddie. Penta hits a tope onto the Good Brothers. Matt flips out of a Fear Factor attempt. Matt holds Penta for the cold spray, but Brandon doesn't want to do it because last week he ended up spraying Matt in the face. We get a couple standing switches from the two of them. Then Frankie comes out. He puts Brandon through the table that was set up on the outside. Fear Factor, then back fist on Matt, but we have no ref. A new ref runs out. By the time he gets there, he counts 2, and Nick pulls the ref out of the ring to break up that count. Nick is taken out by Frankie Kazarian. Frankie gets taken out by the Good Brothers with a magic killer on the floor. And then Kingston grabs a bag of tacks, dumps him out in the middle. But Eddie ends up getting tacks thrown in his face. Penta breaks up an attempted powerbomb attempt on Eddie onto the tacks. And then Penta and Nick fight up top to the top turnbuckle. Nick hits a Rana and Penta lands on the tacks, but only gets a 2 count. Eddie fights with the Bucks. They super kick him. They throw tacks in Penta's face and take him out. And then they shove thumbtacks into Eddie's mouth and hit a super kick. And the Bucks pin Eddie Kingston to retain their titles. They had like 20 seconds left before they went off air, so nothing really happened after that. But Young Bucks retain their AEW World Tag Team Championships in this crazy match. I thought it was really fun. A creative ending there, shoving the tacks into Kingston's mouth and then super kicking him while he was on his knees. One of the shots was really good because he spit out like this mouthful of tacks went flying. I thought that was pretty cool. But the match was fun. I mean, it was a car crash. It was moving at all times. Really, there was no down times. And, you know, we have the big spots. Matt taking a destroyer through the table on the floor off the apron. Penta getting Rana'd off the top rope, landing on the tacks in the middle of the ring. So, and then Frankie, the elite hunter, comes out and he gets involved. Good Brothers get involved. So we did, of course, have a screwy finish, or at least a good amount of interference in this match. But other than that, it was very entertaining. The crowd was super hot for this whole thing. So, yeah, this will continue on, and we go into I believe it's the first night of Fyter Fest next week. And then we have night 2 the following week, and then Fight for the Fallen the week after that. So on the road again with fans and new crowds, not just the Daily's Place crowds. So we will see how those shape up. I believe the next couple dates have already sold out, or they're close to selling out. So I guess that is good for them. Overall, I thought the show was pretty fun. The crowd was up and down throughout the show, kind of in some spots I didn't expect them to be. You know, during the Andrade Sydal match, kind of lull in the middle. Cody, QT Marshall, this kind of back and forth whether the crowd was going to be hot throughout the whole thing. I'm not sure what they could have done. I haven't really pondered what they could have done to kind of make that more exciting. Yeah, I don't know. I think they should have just gone with the Wardlow FTR versus Santana Ortiz and Jake Hager match first, and then put Cody and QT Marshall on after that. I think it would have made the show flow a little better. But yeah, it is what it is. So big news, of course, we have the Jon Moxley versus Carl Anderson for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, US Heavyweight Championship. So yeah, that's kind of like the biggest thing coming out of this show. It's just huge news that they're continuing to allow that championship to be defended on AEW television. Anderson wants to bring the title back to Japan, and we will see if he succeeds. Don't think he will, but this will be Moxley's first match back from his paternity leave. So there is that. I believe there's also a Darby Allin match that's coming up on Dark Elevation this coming week. I believe that was like one of the main event after the Dynamite show was over. They were doing Darby Allin with Sting at ringside. So if people wanted to see Sting live, they would have to stick around till after Dynamite for that. So we'll see what the crowd is kind of like for that. And I'm curious if having an actual crowd, if they're going to have Dark Elevation be more of what Dynamite used to be, where it was 3 matches maybe, plus a little bit of character work, maxing out at an hour. Hopefully that is what they do with Dark Elevation now that they're on the road, but that is to be seen. So that is kind of where we stand at the end of it here, and I'm not sure what else to talk about. I thought this was fine, but had the up and downs, but we will see how they continue to go as they are exposed to new crowds over and over. So, thanks everybody for sticking with me by myself this week. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, you can send those to eric@thatswrestling.com, or you can get a hold of us on Twitter @thatswrestling1 with the number 1. If you are listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live over on Twitch and on YouTube. You can come join the chat. If you have any questions or any comments during the show, we can address those. You can head over to our Discord, come hang out there, and if you can't find the podcast in your favorite podcast app, shoot me an email or get a hold of me and I can get it added, or you can head over to thatswrestling.com, snag the RSS feed from there. So thanks everybody for watching. My name is Eric LaRoche. You've been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.